We saw some green candles as the market came off of its lows. NVIDIA just reported earnings, and at the moment, I'm kind of thinking it looks like a nothing burger. It appears, though, as if they had decent earnings telling us that the AI story was intact, but not good enough earnings to suggest that we should be gobbling up NVIDIA in fear of getting locked out as this thing surges. Matter of fact, it appears that the move has largely been around 3%. It dipped, now it's up. But I think technically I have more concern tomorrow in the morning of this rolling over and beginning to go back and test the lows. The CEO said that Blackwell demand is amazing. He said that the AI story is advancing at light speed. Huang did not disappoint, as he was an incredible representative of AI and his business, being a great front man and pumping up the opportunity ahead. However, as I said, margins did disappoint. Now, they had warned us that the margins were going to be decreasing, and he said in his speech, he said that later in 2025, the margins would begin to re-accelerate. I don't know that anybody is going to take that at face value. It's going to be more of this is going to go back and test its lows, then it's going to come back and consolidate. I think we're going to see this range for a long time until we get the evidence that it is indeed re-accelerating. But so at the moment, NVIDIA's earnings were not a disappointment. They just weren't good enough to pump the stock and pump the market. And so I would still say that I see red flags waving in front of us. I think the market is pushing to price in these concerns. And as I said, by the time we get to the PCE this Friday, that's when it's really going to play out. I think that we're still under selling pressure, but we're seeing relative strength, which means a handful of stocks which are doing better than their peers. And so one of them that's not doing too good is Tesla, absolutely capitulating today. And we actually got a beautiful profit off of it in my live Wednesday trade session in my Stocks with Josh Discord. We were able to jump into some puts and we wrote it down to a 105% fat gross profit. So, you know, you got to be able to understand these markets, that when they're going up, your long-term investments are increasing, but when they're going down, your swing account is getting fatter and fatter. That's what we're doing right now, but you've got to be positioned. You can't be all in your swing account when the market's at an all-time high, because you simply won't be able to take advantage of these daily moves down. We're taking advantage of them in the live trade sessions. I dropped some trade setups in the Discord this morning. One was for Tesla. That was one of the ones that printed. The other one was for the SPY. And I also dropped SMCI. Now, SMCI got their act together, got the paperwork filed, have avoided being delisted, and the stock absolutely took off. It popped this morning above 20%, if I can recall. It had a beautiful move higher. Yes, close to 20%, around 18% before the market opened, but it also has rolled over. And it's showing me more weakness for tomorrow. Likely tomorrow's trade setup is going to include a move down on SMCI if we don't get it pre-market already. If we get that move down pre-market, we'll look for a potential place to go long again. But right now, SMCI looked weak to me this morning, and it rolled over slowly throughout the day. Lucid Group, they had a leadership change announcement. Never a good sign. Basically, that's when the captain doesn't go down with the ship. He says, I'm getting off this ship. It's sinking. You know, I've never been a fan of Lucid. That's a real Hail Mary trade. That's for the diehards. I'm not a diehard. I'm not a bag holder. You guys have followed me long enough to know that if it's not an absolute best-in-class play, I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. In my opinion, Tesla is hard enough to trade and sketchy enough to trade than to have to go with Tesla version 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. I don't know which you consider Lucid to be, but it's down 11% pre-market. Not a good look. BloFin. Now, this is one that I really like. Now, these guys got smacked down 12% today. What gave them the smackdown? Well, they basically got some fraud allegations and some litigation investigations. So people are looking into them. They got a short report, and this has caused the stock to fall. Now, I think this is absolutely going to be setting up for an opportunity because I think this company is doing the right thing. These are these beautiful opportunities when these short reports come out and give you an opportunity to get into something that just had been running so consistently higher, you felt locked out. Well, here comes a short report, a little bit of trouble. We call it FUD. And at the right price, once it hits support, we'll look at taking a long position on AppLovin. The big news is Bitcoin. Oh, Bitcoin. Falling apart. Very, very sad. I did a thorough breakdown of that in my live trade session. I charted it and gave 3 scenarios. I will briefly highlight that now. Matter of fact, let's just jump into some charts. This is going to be a quick video today. I'm going live tonight on StockMo's page with the Stock Squad, so make sure you don't miss out on that. Let's go look at some charts real quick. I'm looking at 2-month candles at Bitcoin, and this is called a tweezer top. There's no doubt about it. It's an extremely bearish pattern, and I drew attention to this in the Discord live trade session this morning. I said this is going to really present us a problem. Ever since November, the last 3 candles have been bearish, and now we're going south. We've got to follow candle theory. Candle theory has been telling us that we've got a huge problem, and the only remedy to this, is that we've got to get it back above 90K before the end of this month. If we don't, then I believe we're getting back to the mid-70s, and then we're going to probably slowly spend another month or 2 consolidating and then make another push up where we're either going to do one of 2 things. We're either going to make a lower high or we're going to make a slightly higher high. The slightly higher high being as close to about 116 as I've been telling you. That's been on my radar. And the slightly lower high would basically be a move back to around 100K. And without going into great detail, what I do see in this is that it appears to me that the $150,000 to $180,000 Bitcoin very much appears to be off the table. And when we get back up, potentially in this scenario that I gave you, to 116, I know you're going to have so many people calling for that additional run up to 150, up to 200, but we're getting later and later in the cycle. And if you remember, I've talked about the fact that the tops have come earlier and earlier in these cycles, not later and later. The only thing that comes later and later in the cycle is the folks smoking hopium attempting to hold on to some final push that never comes. Let me know in the comment section if you think that the high and the top of Bitcoin is already behind us, or if you think we're going to get a lower high, or if you think I'm right and we'll end up getting to 116K before it is officially over. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let's talk about Tesla real quick. I'm going to take you into that chart. And I want to show you guys this. Tesla, I predicted in my last video that I saw more weakness ahead. I said, unfortunately, I don't see a V-shaped recovery for this. I want to point out that we officially broke into this golden pocket zone, and it appears as if we're making a very fast move back to this level of support that I've been talking to you guys, right around 270. Now, the bottom of that golden pocket, okay, so things, when they run up, they very often come back, they test the golden pocket, and they reverse. It can technically reverse anywhere in the golden pocket, but the last spot where it should reverse is the bottom of the golden pocket. That's 265. And interestingly, that also coincides with structural support. And so I just want you guys to be aware, I'm waiting on Tesla for this move back to 265. I'm hoping tomorrow that I make another 100, 200% on some options if it does break to the downside. Now, what would reverse this is we would have to get back above 325. That is the current significant resistance on this chart, and we would have to get up above it, do a little consolidation, hold that ground, and that would be a signal that we're going back up. But personally, I don't see that. I don't see the catalyst. NVIDIA is an absolutely A-plus AI company, and it just told us today that there's no reason for the stock price on NVIDIA to skyrocket and go higher. It needs more time. It needs to get put back in the oven and needs to cook more. Tesla's in a similar spot. After we made that high all the way back up here, right under 480, we knew that it needed to cook. I told you that it needed to cook. I told you that they have a lot of great ideas that are going to come into play later in 2026, possibly even as late as 2027. They're also struggling with that margin, and I'm going to just keep this, that you guys understand this, okay? When your margin goes down, your PE valuation goes up. And if you can't hold on to your margin, one, it means that you don't have dominance. It means that you're in a competitive environment and others are winning or they're pressing in on you. So if you cannot maintain your margin with a huge giant moat so that nobody can do what you're doing, then it's going to go down and it's going to drive that PE higher. And then out of nowhere, from one quarter to the next, the stock goes from having a good valuation to a not good, expensive, high PE valuation. That's what NVIDIA is contending with, and it's what Tesla is contending with. And so I don't personally see the catalyst anytime soon, which means this week or this month, to cause these to go higher. I think that you're going to be only dealing with catching the bottom where institutions decide that it's come down enough to begin to take risk. And going past their earnings, I think we're going to be going into a danger zone where there's more risk to the downside, right? Not delivering good news today, unfortunately. Bitcoin, not doing well. NVIDIA, not doing well, in my opinion, even though it's up. And even if it went up tomorrow, let me quickly take you into that chart and give you the perspective of what it needs to do, because we don't want to get faked out even by a green day tomorrow, because I'm going to show you what it has to do to really show us that it's ready to go on a roller coaster rocket ship move. We're here trying to catch rockets. We're trying to ride rockets here. You know, we're trying to get stocks that move and have momentum and volume and liquidity and the price is going higher. That's what we're looking for. And if we don't have it, we need to sit on our hands. We need to sit on our cash and wait for that to happen. And in the case of Tesla, we have the rocket to the downside. The ATM is printing on the down moves. And I'm going to tell you where on NVIDIA, we could also get a huge print to the downside. Let's go look at that chart real quick. Okay, so you guys see that they reported earnings and we just have a ton of chop. Let's take a step out of the 5-minute chart and we're going to go to the 1-day chart. All right, we're looking at the NVIDIA chart, and the significant area of resistance on this chart is back here at 153. You guys can see that. And it's really not until it gets above 153 that we now then have a target of it coming up to this 175. That's really the move that we were hoping for out of this earnings, was for this to be stair-stepping up. And that seems to have come off the table. What we got so far was a very beautiful move up, right? But once we got below 137, which was the stop price for our trade, it's really lost steam. It dipped today. Now I'm going to put this to the 12-hour chart so we can see the after-hours activity. We can see that there are some nice little green candles there, but with the supposedly positive earnings, we haven't actually gotten above our local high. So that's what's called, guys, an official nothing burger. I don't want to eat it. So the bigger concern would be the loss of 130 tomorrow, which is what I am more concerned about right now, because at 130, if 130 is lost, it then brings this 113 all the way down here. It brings it back as a reality. So if you take a step back, it does appear overall that NVIDIA is not having its blast off moment, but really having its rollover moment. So if you disagree with me, if you heard something different in the earnings, let me know in the chat. We'll talk about it in the Discord. We're going to be looking to profit on these going down right now, okay? So you got to shift. You say, well, Josh, you were bullish on NVIDIA. I was bullish on NVIDIA. We got to earnings. It wasn't what we had wanted it to be. And we also talked this last week about following the market's reaction to earnings. I'm going to say that this is almost a non-existent reaction, which seems like a rollover to me. So it's time to shift it up and profit potentially on the move down. We're going to continue to have these potential moves down until I think the PCE report comes out. I think there's been a lot of effort by the sellers and the bears to price in their concerns about inflation. Inflation, inflation, inflation. It's now the biggest story on Wall Street. It used to be AI in 2023 and 2024. We were all excited about AI. Now we're back to living under the wet, heavy blanket of inflation, right? And then you add to that Trump's tariff wars, which add a little bit of concern, an additional layer of uncertainty. And this is a market that believes that stocks are expensive and that is just has a black cloud above it of uncertainty, right? And you got to think about, what are the catalysts? What are the driving catalysts? Well, one of them was NVIDIA, and NVIDIA just told us that their margins were not as strong as they had been, and that in 2025, they would possibly go back into the phase of acceleration, which means that as things drop, they're only going to drop so far before folks looking 6 months down the road will take advantage of that. Okay, so that's my take on it all. I'm going to be live here shortly, maybe even by the same time I get this video up, because it takes time to do some editing. By the time this video gets up, I may be over there on StockMo's page talking about these things in greater detail. That will be a lively and interesting conversation, and I'm sure we're going to dive into Bitcoin and what's going on with the crypto market. And I think that's something that I haven't gotten all of my thoughts out yet. I gave you a quick thought on it today, but there's more to dive into there. Appreciate you guys. Peace and blessings. Hit the like and subscribe, and do not sleep on the Discord, because that's where we're making money. We made 105% in the live trade session. Now, do we always make 100% on everything? No. Sometimes I don't win, and I've got to take a step back. That happened last Friday. I didn't have a good win at the start, took a step back, okay? Today, I think we had 3 trades. All of them were winners. The last one was the biggest. We're going to hope to do it again Friday. Get in there before Friday so that you can live trade with me and at least learn what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and follow along. It's a great community. Appreciate you guys. Let people know if you made some money this morning with me in the chat. Appreciate all of you. Peace and blessings. Bye-bye.